Hey guys, welcome to Screenshots. My name is Pedro and I'm here to talk to you about movies. Today I'm going to talk about Star Wars. Now, if you haven't seen the film, do not watch this review because it contains spoilers. With that being said, fucking Star Wars, one of my favorite trilogies. I remember watching it when I was a kid. I loved it so much, and I finally have the opportunity to talk to you about Star Wars. When you think about Star Wars, you don't think about as a movie, really. You think about as its own universe, its own world, its own imagination that everybody that worked on the film, especially George Lucas, brought to the table. And it's just a fascinating world to watch and rewatch time and time again. The original trilogy, not the prequel trilogy, because I really don't want to talk to you about the prequel trilogy because, well, I hate it, basically. It's fascinating to talk about Star Wars because there's so much to talk about. There's the whole universe, the story, the characters, and most importantly, in my opinion, it's how it's able to reference so many films, so many old films, prior to George Lucas making Star Wars. And when you really understand everything that went through to make a film like that, a trilogy like that, it's just mind-blowing. So Star Wars has Luke Skywalker as the main protagonist. It's a very simple story. You have this character who wants to fight alongside the Rebel Alliance against the Empire, and you see that happening throughout Star Wars A New Hope, and it's just this really simple story that we've seen so many times. But at the same time, one of the most fascinating parts of Star Wars is the imagination behind it. It's not just the fact that this person wants to achieve this dream that you clearly have, but he lives in a faraway planet called Tatooine. I mean, what? Tatoo what? You just straight off, you get this weird name with this weird environment, but weird in a good way, and then you have like so many planets that you have to remember the names and all of the creatures that you see in this world, and then you meet this cocky guy who's Han Solo, and his best friend is like a furry sort of looking bear, and then you have these two droids. Why are these two droids here, and why is there something called the Force where you can move objects just by doing this with your hand, and why are there laser pistols? Why are there lightsabers? What is a Jedi? I mean, what the hell? You got so many imaginative things going on throughout the story that makes it even more compelling. The cantina scene, for example, is one of the most epic scenes in the film, and it just sticks on your head because you see these weird looking guys just doing the flute thing. It's just so compelling, it really is. And it was done with handmade things instead of CGI. Well, because he didn't have CGI at the time, but the fact that people actually worked with things, with objects, actually made the spaceships into these little toys, and all these creatures were people inside them, and the droids and everything. It gives much more realism to it. That was so enjoyable to see. Like when you see a spaceship in space, you don't question it. It's there and it's flying. When you see the binary sunset, you don't question that how they made the two suns. It's there. You're seeing two suns on screen, And I really like that about the original trilogy and A New Hope, because you have all of these realistic effects, realistic special effects that gives a whole other dimension to the film, But my biggest question is, a film that has an interesting story, simple but interesting, and this imaginative world around it, why was it so successful at the time? I mean, why do people remember it as like not just the movie, but more than that? What is the reason for that? I think the reason would be the fact that in the 70s, you had so many dark and realistic films. You had like Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese. You had Apocalypse Now by Francis Ford Coppola. You had One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, by Milos Forman. You had so many films that tried to really captivate a rawness and a truthfulness of each character, really get into the crazy side of the characters, And it was a time where people had so many of that films going on, which are really, really good and memorable films. But I'm guessing when you're in a decade and you watch so many of these films, and then you have a film like Star Wars, which is such an action-packed medium film, I think that really connected with the audience. I think it really said something to the audience that, wait a minute, this is a new type of cinema. something we've never seen before, something fresh, something truly original, and we want more of this. And I'm guessing that Star Wars was the starting point for all of the movies that we have nowadays, especially with superhero films like the Marvel films and DC films, But for me, the most interesting aspect of the film is how it's able to reference so many old films. Everybody knows it references westerns. Star Wars is even known to be a space western in its own way. It references, for instance, John Ford's The Searchers, especially with the scene where John Ford arrives at the house burning with all the dead people around it, and it's exactly the same as the scene in Star Wars: A New Hope where Luke arrives at his home and sees his aunt and uncle dead, and the house is also burning. It's a very similar sequence, shot by shot. You also have like a clear direct reference in a Sergio Leone film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Basically, the ugly character's in a bathtub, and this guy comes upon him and sees him and starts talking like he's got the upper hand, and then the ugly character shoots him because he has a gun hidden inside the bathtub, and he even says, if you have to shoot, don't talk, which resembles the scene in the Han shot first scene. Yes, Han did shoot first. If George Lucas wants to try to prove that he didn't with his neck going, then no, Han shoots first and the other guy dies. That's it. So yeah, as you can see, it references westerns, but it also references samurai films, something that not many people talk about, and it's kind of like the essence of Star Wars, of taking its plot actually comes from an Akira Kurosawa film called The Hidden Fortress, where three men stumble upon this princess where she's imprisoned in a hidden fortress. It's a reference to the scene where Luke, Han, and Ben get sucked into the Death Star and stumble upon Princess Leia and rescue her. So it's cool that George Lucas did this, that referenced a film like this. But at the same time, you also have like clear direct references in the other Akira Kurosawa films, like the Yojimbo sequel, Sanjuro, where in the beginning of the film, these enemy guys stumble upon this house and nobody's there, but when they run away, you see the main characters all hidden under the floor, resembling the scene where Luke, Han, and Ben are hidden under the floor in the Millennium Falcon. Also, right after in Sanjuro, when they get out of the floor, this man just says, "Oh no, they're going to the place where this is happening. I have to go to it." And Toshiro Mifune's character, this actor that was really well known in Japan at the time, especially in the Akira Kurosawa film, says, "No, don't go." And he's like this wiser and older character. So it's a clear direct reference in Star Wars: A New Hope, where you have Luke going to his aunt and uncle's house, having the same reaction, and you have Ben Kenobi, the wiser and older person, like the samurai version in Star Wars, also saying, "No, don't go. It might be dangerous for you." It's a clear direct reference, and I love that. I love that Star Wars: A New Hope is able to reference so many films, westerns, samurais. You got the Flash Gordon references with the scrolling text, the Dam Busters reference in the end of A New Hope, where the X-Wing fighters try to destroy the Death Star. You got so many references. It's so awesome to watch. And I think the thing that I liked most was how George Lucas was able to make the western part like this modern way of lifestyle, and the samurai part this old way of lifestyle. So basically Han Solo like being a kind of like the space cowboy with a laser pistol and accustomed to the new ways, whereas Luke and Ben Kenobi especially is accustomed to the old ways, a samurai way, but also believing in this force. That's something that you feel, that you believe in, and you really feel this contrast in Star Wars, especially in the scene where Han says that, "No, you shouldn't believe that crap, the force is just something that people told you before to make you believe something that didn't exist." And it kind of resembles like a lot of arguments and discussions that people have nowadays, between like a religion and the new ways of living. So it was really cool to see this and understand this from Star Wars, the fact that it has this contrast, but at the same time make it so entertaining and enjoyable, because let's face it, everybody wants to wield a lightsaber, everybody wants to put its hand forward and control objects and predict the future with its mind. Everybody wants to do that. Just close their eyes and believe in the Force, and you know exactly when to press the button to destroy, to launch the missile and destroy the Death Star. Everybody wants to believe in that. And as you can see, Star Wars is not just a fresh and original film. It also contains the essence of so many old films, so many historical elements to it. For instance, the Empire is a sort of dictatorship regime, led by an emperor that we don't see in New Hope. But the chief officer, the person who gets things done, basically the Darth Vader character, is kind of like resembles like a Gestapo chief officer in the Nazi regime. Basically the Rebel Alliance has to overcome this dictatorship regime, and win its battle. And you don't think of it when you're watching the film because it's such an imaginative world, but it's there. You can relate to it somehow, and I'm guessing the people who watched it in the 70s were able to relate to it on a subconscious level. So it's really cool to see a film that is able to put in so many things, so many information, so many references, and become something so new at the same time. I think that is the strength of Star Wars. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll look forward to know your opinions below, and remember, these are my personal opinions.